how to build a business, but yet how to build a business that comes with a legacy. That's what we're talking about today. We have a special guest. Go ahead and let you introduce yourself, then we'll go ahead and jump into the topic. If you want to go ahead and let everybody know who you are, where they can find you, and what you do.
Thank you guys for having me. My name is Tayde Aburto. Flew from San Diego, California to be here with you all. And I'm a business consultant, and I've been working with small businesses since 2008.
Nice. Where can everybody find you?
They can find me. They can find me on taydeaburto.com. And the good thing is that my name is not that common, so it's very easy to Google my name, and you will find all my info there.
There we go.
So how do you guys differentiate what legacy is versus just building a business or being stuck in a hustle? I think that's something that a lot of people don't talk about. Whenever it comes to legacy, I always hear talk about like generational wealth, but never, okay, where is that coming from? And what are you building, and how can you give something to your family?
Term life insurance. No.
So hey, you know what? That's a legitimate question. That's a legitimate question because you wrote a book about generational wealth, right? To achieve wealth, right? Because a lot of people don't understand the difference between wealth and rich. You see, there's a lot of rich people out there. A lot of people get rich. Mm-hmm. But wealth is very different, right? Whenever it comes to money, right? Mm-hmm. Wealth is money where your money is making you money, or just having that money is actually supporting your lifestyle, right?
Exactly.
What do you think? Everybody's always pushing wealth and associating it with life insurance. What is your opinion on that? What do you think about that?
Well, let me start by sharing something with you guys. When I moved from Mexico, it was pretty fascinating to me to see how generations of Latino entrepreneurs were not taking advantage of the wealth that they built over the years with the younger generations. So I think a lot has to do with not the proper planning and on all your financial decisions as you start progressing in your personal and professional life. So what I learned was like the approach that the general market or the Americans have is that they're more strategic about how they start building wealth in their family. And that has to do with like getting life insurance or diversifying your investments. I don't think that we do that in our community. We don't take the time to do the research on how we can diversify our investments.
Yeah, I agree with that fully. And Nate can attest to this. I think anybody in my family can attest to this. I've always been very loud and asked a lot of questions. It's just part of my nature and how I've been. And when I first started getting into real estate and real estate investing, I did ask all of my uncles and aunts and family, and how much are your mortgage and how much are you paying for this? And, I was trying to get a general rule of what expenses were. And the responses were always shocking. It was always like very rude and vulgar. I guess as I was young, I didn't realize that I was asking a very personal question, like how much are your bills? Really, but I was trying to get a gauge for like cost of living so I can make an analysis on a project I was working on. And I was trying to get real life examples because I didn't want to make up numbers. I wanted to get real life scenarios from my family. And I specifically remember one of my aunts getting really upset with me and telling me, what does it matter? Are you going to pay it? And I was like, no, I mean, I'm working on a project for school and I need, I wanted to use real scenarios. I can make things up, but I want to use real examples. And it's always been in my mind, or it's always been very clear that everything's always very closed off and very guarded. And even when we have nothing to protect, there's always like some secret that you're protecting for no reason. And you're never like talking to people or like educating the next generation on what to do. And very different than a lot of my American family, friends and things that I see. I have friends that, in my opinion, have not a lot, to say nothing is disrespectful, but they don't have a lot. And even they have estate plannings and have estate meetings just because it's what they do. And they don't have a lot. They're just preparing for the things that they do want or the things that they have. And, I don't see that in our culture. So it's different.
Hey, Vick, sorry, I want to make a pause here, but I think it is important that in our culture, we change our relationship with money. I don't know if you guys grow up hearing this, like, he thinks like he's a big thing because he has money. Se siente mucho porque tiene dinero. You know, like all this. So you grow up thinking like money is evil.
Yeah.
Like you don't want to have money because you're going to become this prick, this pretentious person that is going to be, that is not humble, that is disrespectful to people that do not have money and all that. We have to change the way that we have the relationship with money. And that's why it is so important in our community that we invest into financial literacy.
Yeah, I agree. I will give, I'm constantly giving, credit to tons of people on this, but I do give a lot of credit to Nate. He taught me something early on in my life. And because I'm, he's always, and I always say, everything he tells me, I make it seem a lot nicer than the way he told it to me. He's like, you have this bleeding heart. You can't do these things. And he's just like letting me have it. But the message was important. The message was, the example he chose is like, you're on this life raft and you're trying to save yourself. And if everyone's pulling you down, then you guys are all going to drown. At some point, you got to save yourself first and put yourself in a position to help others, right? And that's what legacy means to me. That's what legacy means. They confuse it with money, but I think it's more of a platform to help others, right? It's not just a paycheck. It's an opportunity to help other people create wealth, and for us to build a platform for people to work. There's so much that goes into it. To say, it's one thing or the other would be naive.
Yeah.
It's planning, it's financial literacy, it's perseverance, it's lifestyle qualities. There's so much that goes into building this, and we just talked yesterday. We actively work on that goal every day. And that's what people don't do. They don't actively work on the vision every day.
I can't believe he still remembers that, but my analogy has actually changed as I got older. Right now, what I say is, whenever you're on a plane, they always instruct you, if you have a baby, you have a kid on your lap, if the masks come down, you put yours on first. Then you find one for your son, for the baby, And the thing about it is that, you kind of think about it, right? The most important thing to you is on your lap, your son, your daughter, right? And the plane is falling apart and these masks drop, and you grab the mask, and your baby, your loved one is seeing you put the mask on your face, and like going like, I can't breathe, Then you're finding something for your son. But what people don't think about is what happens if you put it on him first, right? And then you pass away. You're holding him, you're holding her, or you're taking care of her. Who's gonna take care of her? Nobody is, And that's what happens in our culture, right? We make money, we make careers, we make a life for ourselves. We move out to the suburbs, we move far away from the barrio, we do all these things, right? And everybody's like looking at us, from far away, like, oh my God, they're jerks. They're like you said, se creen muchos. They think they're better than you. And the number one thing, right, that everybody always says, right? Hey, don't forget where you came from, And I'm like, yeah, I know where I came from, and that's why I do what I do,
Yeah, and I just had this conversation with the team actually yesterday, because I was telling them that we're going into that third quarter, and it really does mean a lot, like what they think about themselves and the position that they want to put themselves in. And I was telling them that they needed to be selfish with their time, delusional within their goals, and unreasonable with their standards. Because something that we're taught as even somebody, I don't think this falls under any kind of like race or anything like that. I think it's middle class. It comes back to that safety net, right? Staying right in the middle. And they don't ever teach you to be unreasonable with your standards, delusional with your goals, or selfish with your time. It's always give the most from yourself to everybody else. Always try to, play yourself down and be reasonable. Like that's what you're taught in that middle class, in that middle income, right? So I was telling them this was very important in order to set yourself apart from everybody else. And people in your circle where you come from, they're not going to understand that. They're going to think you're being a bad person at that point in time. And sometimes you have to tell those people, no, I can't go out, to this trip that we're going to this weekend. I have to stay here and work because I have certain goals that I'm going to hit, and I'm going to be unreasonable with leaving in order for me to, and lose that time that I'm going to have here.
And oftentimes, Jovani, if you surround with people that have no ambitions, no goals, etc., they are going to try to keep you where they want you to be, you know? But when you have goals, when you have economic goals that you want to pursue, when you have other things that are important for your personal development and your business development, you have to surround yourself with people that have the same mindset. Because at the end of the day, we are the average, and this is not like a cliche or anything. You are the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. So you have to be very selective who those people are as you start growing in your career.
We were talking about this yesterday, and Nate and I, and we were talking. We said when you have conviction in what you're doing, you know, everything's easy. It's clear. You have a goal. Nothing could tear you down. And I was having a conversation this morning. You know, Nate recommended me to his Dominican barbershop. Shout out to Royce. And you know, great time, great experience. You know, it was the longest 3-hour haircut I've ever had in my life. But it was a fun time, and we were speaking on conviction there, and I lost my train of thought because I was shouting out Royce there. But when you have conviction in your beliefs and what you do, everything else becomes easy. People try to tear you down, but you're gonna have to keep walking your path. You know, everything we talk about the college kids or people that I grew up with and decisions that we made. And they're impactful decisions, right? On going to college or completing college or not doing it because of whatever reason, right? And I've had some of those same friends that, told me I was throwing away my life, that I was doing the wrong thing, come back and tell me, oh, you have it easy now. It's because you have a business and you've been in business for 15 years. It's like, bro, I mean, none of this was easy, and it's still not easy now.
Still not easy. Yeah.
So no, it's not easier. No, it's not, I don't have a guaranteed check. I can't clock in. You deal with the problems every day. They keep piling on. They don't stop. And you can't just go to work and they're going to finish. They're always going to come, and you always have to be prepared. And you always have to work. So, I think creating legacy and wealth and doing and creating a platform. It's hard work, and that's why not everybody does it as easily as they say it. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and going back to what Tayde was saying, right, about surrounding yourself with people with higher goals, but I think that even goes back to like the way that you structure your business. You need to be surrounded by other business owners to see the difficulties that you're going through at the moment and know that there's a way for you to break out of it, right? That this is not the end. You might be, going through some things where it might feel like you're about to lose a business or whatever it may be, but if you're surrounded by other people that have that experience at one point in time, they can tell you, hey, you just got to push through. It's a phase. You're going to go through the growing pains. You're going to make it to the other side. But if you're surrounded by people who've never had a business or never even tried to open one at one point in time, the end for them seems like the end when it just might be the bottom of your next level that you're going to go to. Can you guys speak to that? So
no, I mean, definitely. I agree 100%. I think that some of the people that are around you that don't own a business, they what they all have in common or what they all share is they all want to turn it off. They all want to turn it off at some point. They don't want to take a phone call on the weekend. They don't want to take a phone call after 5. They want to, when they're done. They're at home. They're relaxed, and they see doing anything after that time that they're not getting paid hourly as a burden, right? And so it's tough for them to wrap their mind around when you're, on a vacation with them, or whenever you're at their house on a Saturday night or on a holiday, and you're taking a phone call, or you're working on your phone, or you're doing something, they almost see it as burdensome, and to us, we see it as freedom.
Yeah,
we see it as freedom that we get to do whatever we want. We get to wake up when we want. If I don't feel like taking a client, I won't deal with them.
Book them.
I won't book them. Yeah, and so yeah, I think that's what I've seen. The common denominator, right? The common denominator is that people want to turn it off. It's no different than people that go, they wear a suit, right, all day, or they dress really nice all day, but you catch them on a you catch them on a weeknight or on a Saturday morning at Walmart, they're gonna be dressed in pajamas.
Catch me at Walmart on a Saturday morning. I got my Crocs on, mismatching shirts. You won't even see. You won't even know it's me.
Terrible.
Hey Nate, I think controlling your time is one of the best ways to talk about wealth.
Yeah.
I mean, when you get to the point where you know, when you decide what do you want to do every day throughout the rest of your life, for me, that's real wealth.
Mm-hmm.
Where I don't have to be like stressing about absolutely anything. Like if I just want to get up today and read 3 books on a Monday, I'll do it because I know that my finances and the rest of my life is taken care
Yeah,
of.
definitely.
And for me, that's the real meaning of wealth, when you can control your time.
Yeah. I don't have a lot. I never really had a job, so I don't have like any coworker friends or anything like that, you know. And thankfully, a lot of my family, you know, are entrepreneurs, and the family I'm closest to, you know, has been in the business or understands our business. You know, I will admit that I didn't have to pave that way. You know, Nate was the bad guy in the family for a long time, so you know, I was just. You know, it was just like, oh, you're trying to be like Nate. And I'm like, yeah. All right, cool. I was like, yeah, I was Nate. I don't know. Nate didn't let me go. No. So, you know, you paid the way there. So for me, I don't know what it's like to have a 9 to 5. I don't know what it's like to have, like, I've always been in control of my schedule. But what I will say, the downside of that is that I don't know how to enjoy a vacation. You know, my job doesn't ever finish, but it never felt bad. It never felt like, oh man, I have to work. It just felt like tasks that I needed to complete before I got to enjoy the rest of my day. Or if something pops up, it never feels inconvenient. It just feels like something I have to do. Like, hey, give me a quick second. Let me knock this out. I don't ever feel like I truly had to work. You know, everything feels like just things that need to get done and things that need to be executed to grow in the way that I need to grow. Nothing ever feels like work. It feels great. The only time I've ever felt even remotely bad is my kids telling me, oh man, you have to go to work. And I'm like, I'm having to talk to them. It's like, that tonality. Why are you having that tonality with me? And I'm telling them, I'm like, hey, like, it's not a bad thing. If you know, we're working really hard and you get, you know, the toys that you want and you get to stay here and you have your mom, you know, and I'm talking them through the things that my work gets them. Because I don't like the tonality. I don't like the, oh man, you got to work. It's like, no, it's a good thing. I'm going to work. I'm thankful that I have work. I'm thankful that we're in an abundance mindset. The business is growing and realtors are coming and I have things to do today, you know, because there was times that we didn't. And I wish I did. I wish I had some, I wish I had some clients. I wish I had some problems, you know? So I'm thankful for the good moments and I'm thankful for the difficult times. It's always important. And like, I will say that I do thankfully say I've never worked a day in my life. There are things that need to be done. I don't see that ending anytime soon. I don't know. Could be wrong, but I think that's the life of an entrepreneur.
I came from a family. My father, well, the time that I lived with him, right? When I was little, you know, he was a 9 to 5, right? He worked for a gas company, and I remember that when I woke up for school, he was gone already, right? And when I would come home, I knew that he would get home like at 5 or 6, you know, and you know, that was just the thing. Like, I saw him for a few hours at night, went to sleep, you know. If I was out running the street, I'd come home and sometimes he'd be asleep already, you know. So you know, I was used to my dad not being there all day working, you know. And so I think that when I became, you know, an entrepreneur and I was at home with my kids, you know, I think them seeing me at home working, them seeing me, the flexibility that I had, them seeing, you know, how I balance my work and my life with them, I think that really left an impression on them to make them want to be entrepreneurs themselves, you know. I just don't see my life being any other way, and I don't see my kids being another way. Like, if I say, hey, let's go here, let's go on vacation or whatever. I don't want my kids to say, oh, I got to take time off from work. You know, I'd be like,
you better quit that job,
man. You better get something else, because you know, I just think that, I mean, if there's people on Instagram making money, you can make money doing something.
And that's one of the big things that we talk about here, you know, on legacy, you know, and like kind of shifting from that, you know, hustle to ownership, you know, and building the structure, right? I think, you know, like Tayde says as well, structure equals freedom, right? And those systems will give you the freedom to do the things that you need to, right? And it gives you the freedom to grow, to hire, right? And I guess, you know, we're all entrepreneurs here, right? I think, you know, what are some systems, you know, that you as a solo entrepreneur or Jovani as an agent, should implement to build sustainability there with freedom? What are some things that you guys have implemented or things that y'all want to implement?
Well, Tayde wrote a book, right? And just a quick question: are you ever going to get that book in English, or it's always?
Yeah, I think we'll have it ready by the end of the summer.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Man.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. But I know that I haven't read your book yet, Tayde. Sorry. I know Flor has read it, and Flor was asking some great questions. So I want to know, what Vick just asked, right? Is there anything in the book that would answer Vick's question?
No, for sure. And I think it's a topic that is relevant to any business owner. And this is something that I have learned over the years. Those that are the most successful and the business's value is the highest is for those that have systems and processes in place. When you don't have systems and processes in place, and if you want to sell your business, the value of your business is not going to be as high as if you have those systems and processes, because what that allows you is to have a business that can run without you. So your experience, everything that you have learned in the industry, etc., you translate that into manuals that your team can follow, and they can be updated and optimized as things keep changing, because we know that every industry goes through different trends and innovations affect the growth of businesses in general. So it's important that you structure these systems and processes in a way that they can be updated according to the circumstances of the market. So once you have that in place, even if you are a solopreneur, because I've been there, I've been a solopreneur, or I work with different contractors. So when I was working with different contractors, I will have a process on how we go about the different activities or the different tasks that needed to get done. And I could totally disconnect on Christmas for like 2 weeks, and those tasks will get executed because we have those systems and processes in place. So it doesn't matter if you are a solopreneur or if you have a company with 100, 300 employees. It is important to have them if you want to have that freedom, but if you also want to have a very profitable business.
Yeah. And Jovani, as an agent, are there things that you're implementing or you think that your team should implement for sustainability to give you that freedom to do the things you need to do?
Yeah, definitely. I think in real estate, I've always told my realtors that real estate offers you so much rope in order for you to hang yourself with it. So you have so much free time that you will, screw up or you will screw off if you don't give yourself a schedule, if you don't give yourself time blocks for certain things that you need to do. I think this was a big back and forth that Nate and I had for the longest, but I think it's because what I always love to say, we were talking past each other. But what Nate was saying is give yourself like time blocks for certain things that you're going to do in your business. And I was saying give yourself a schedule. But what that looks like for me, one thing that I learned from watching a lot of stuff from Ryan Serhan is give yourself time to work on yourself. Give yourself a time block to work in your business and then work on your business. You can divide up your day into those 3 different sections. You'll have enough time for everything that you pretty much need to do. But people get lost in, making flyers when you should be cold calling your clients, or not cold calling clients, but calling clients, reaching out to the lenders, whatever it may be. And then they go and pick up their laundry around 4 or 5 o'clock whenever they know that they have a client that got to go show 30 minutes after that, right? So it really needs to be broken up into those 3 different phases: working on yourself, working in your business, and working on your business. You break that up into a day and you should have enough time for everything.
There you go. And one of the, I guess, a question that I have, I'd like to see how Nate would answer, this question is how do you balance fast momentum, with smart structured growth? How do you balance that?
How do I balance fast momentum with structured growth?
Do you prefer fast momentum, smart structured growth? How have you handled that in this business?
I was about to say, this is it's hard to balance that. You either do one or the other, no?
Yeah.
But I prefer slow structured growth to fast, because you if you grow too fast, there's not enough. If you overextend yourself, you have nothing to hold you up.
Yeah.
And so if you go slow and steady, then whenever the hardships come, you have a good base to hold on to.
I guess why I kind of worded this question this way on the balance, fast momentum is we've had an opportunity for agents
yeah.
to join, and we've passed on a lot of those opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
And the reasons for that, in my mind, where we didn't have the managers in place, we were going to lose quality in our product, and our business wasn't going to grow the way we needed it to grow, right?
Yeah.
So those are things that I took into consideration when, and I think we've had back and forth on, hey, I'm not ready to hire, I'm not ready to go into recruiting. But there's been some downsides to that, right?
Yeah.
We have to restart every time I want to start recruiting when I'm not at that time, right? So that was the question, I guess, on how we've balanced that.
I think what happens is that we don't have a manager for every type of sales person. That's one of the biggest issues that we have. And me myself, I can, I don't want to say I can handle every single salesperson, right?
Yeah.
But I can handle a huge, portion of it. And whatever I can't handle, you can handle that side too,
Yeah.
So we kind of pick up each other's slack, right?
Yeah.
But in this case, I think that we've grown to a point where it's like, hey, you know what? We no longer can get involved in that side, and we have to have managers that manage these realtors, and unfortunately, we haven't built a strong enough sales or a strong enough management team that can support every type of salesperson, and so we really can't take anybody under our wing anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that you guys are gonna find out when is the right time to start building that management team.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of the process.
Yeah, and that goes, it all goes together, right? The management team, the financial side, the growth strategies, right? And money that lasts, business that lasts, financial, having that financial foundation, I think is important. I wanted to tie this back to, Tayde with his, with business credit, I read this and it stayed in my mind, and you reminded me earlier. A business without credit, without reserves, or your plan really isn't a business, right? It's just a job that you own, and I don't think that you really grow out of that. So, what is the impact of business credit, and what is the impact on a business for that? I think people see it as like, oh, I'll draw my salary from there, but or what is the impact that business credit has?
What I can tell you that over the years, the most successful entrepreneurs that I have met, they build their business with other people's money. They didn't build it with their money.
There you go.
There is always affordable money out there. And if you are prepared, if you are ready to go out there to solicit money, you will get that cheap money. And that's better than using your own money. You can even take a look at what the Bezos of this world, or the Elon Musk and stuff. If you look at their financial statements, the debt ratio is huge. And you'll be like, how is this possible? Like the richest man on the planet, and he's still asking for loans?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's why it's so important for businesses of any size to understand how they can build business credit, and how they can build relationship with their bankers, and how they can build relationship with people with money. Because oftentimes you're going to knock on the doors of private lenders, which is one of the reasons why I'm here in Houston. So you have to be prepared to ask for money, because there is plenty of money. I have a very hard belief when I hear Latino leaders saying that Hispanic businesses are not welcome at financial institutions. They don't lend money to Latino businesses because we are Latinos. No, we don't have the same level of access to capital because we're not ready to ask for capital.
Yeah.
If you have a business plan, if you go to, just imagine this, Victor, like I come to you and I say like, hey, Vic, lend me $1,000. You're going to ask me like, what do you need it for?
Yeah.
How are you going to use that money? When are you going to pay me back? You're not just going to give me $1,000 just because you are my friend.
Yeah.
And this is a situation where you know me. Imagine like the position of bankers, of private lenders, where a random person comes to them and say like, oh, I need $100,000 to grow my business. Wait a minute, like, who are you? What do you do? Show me like your forecast or the expectations, and when are you going to pay me back and stuff. So there is plenty of money out there, but we just have to be ready to go out there and ask for money.
Yeah.
Tayde, let me ask you this, right? Because I think this is very important. Because I'm at the beginning of that journey myself. Where do you start to learn, like, one, how you were saying, right? Go and ask for money, or just how the importance of borrowing money in order for you to take your business to the next level. For somebody who didn't go to school, who doesn't have people around them, they can teach them that. Like, where can you start? Is there a book that you would recommend? Is there a course, a YouTube channel?
The foundation of this process is that you have to really take care of your personal credit. Because even when you start building business credit, in the beginning, you're going to be the guarantor of that loan, right? But you don't need to have like the perfect credit to get access to money. The thing here is like the better your personal credit, the cheaper the money that you're going to get, and the longest terms to pay that money that you're going to get. So my recommendation to any business owner is like, try to get in the 720 plus, and then you're going to have access to the same business loan that a multimillionaire will have. Just because you already have that background, or you can show lenders that you are responsible managing money. Because that, at the end of the day, whether we like it or not, that's kind of like what a personal credit tells the marketplace. Okay, you have different lines of credit here. You have auto loans, you have credit cards, you have your home mortgage. You are paying everything on time. You are being responsible. Right now, you need $3 million to acquire this business, or you need a line of credit or $150,000 to grow your business. I can lend you that money because I trust you based on what I'm seeing here.
There you go. So it's a social proof, so to speak, to take care of your credit.
100%. And one more important thing here. If you're a startup with no financial statements, with no background on the company, as long as you have a decent personal credit, you can have easily access to $250,000, $300,000 to jumpstart your business with a zero interest rate. And I'm not making this up. You can go to any major bank and you will find business credit cards with zero interest rate for the first 6, 12, 15, 18 months.
Yeah.
Who's going to lend you money with zero interest rate?
No one.
Not even the SBA, which they have the cheapest loans in the marketplace.
Yeah.
Yep. And I think that's a great place for us to end our podcast today. I want to let you go ahead and exit out first. Let everybody know where they can find you and what you do again.
Thank you. Thank you so much again for the invitation and for having me on your pod. You can find me on taydeaburto.com. And if you Google my name, you'll find all my info there. My Instagram, Tayde Aburto, Facebook, LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn, so you guys can DM me there. So very easy to find because I have the weirdest name on the planet.
I love that. I am Victorino Cortez here with Lionsgate Realty. We are hiring. We are recruiting. You can find me on Instagram at Real Presidente. Love to hear from you guys soon.
And you can find me at all my social media outlets at Better Call Nate. Master broker here at Lionsgate Realty. We are recruiting. Contact Vick for details, please.
And I am Jovani, your gracious host here at HBR. You can find me on Instagram as that Jovani Frank. Until next time.